Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. Thank you for being here tonight. It's time, and I'm glad our community has a chance to have a conversation. And tonight will be a conversation around solutions as we can create a path forward together. In short, here's a short agenda for us to guide our conversation. I want to are the events of the past week, to make sure we're all on the same page on why we are really here. It was actually birthed out of a suggestion from a parent who said we need a community forum after a week like last week, and I think that was appropriate. I think that was the right thing to do. So I thank the parent for that suggestion. But more importantly, it brings us to a conversation around what is going on. What is happening in the community? What is the narrative? Speak to the truth that we're seeing within our schools, have a chance to talk about how that's impacting the community, talk about what we want to see and what we're doing about it. And then end with getting solutions and ideas from all of you. Before I jump into that, though, I think it's important to thank all of you, one, for being here, and for all the people that have been a part of us creating a path forward. So I want to thank Chief Rivera for being here, his team as well, who are supporting this effort as we push forward collectively. Elected official Pam Carter is here as well. I know Angel Arroyo is here as well. We thank you both for your support and commitment to being here tonight. I know I saw Frank Whitfield from the Urban League is here as well. Patty O'Brien from the ADC as well. Thank you for being here tonight. And for all of you for being a part of this conversation. Councilwoman Kowski, thank you for being here as well. I apologize. Did I miss any other elected official that is here in the audience? The president of the NAACP, Ms. Jean Rice, is here as well. So you see the importance of this conversation. And so I thank you all for being here tonight. So a recap of last week. There were some events that occurred around our school that I just want to name so we're on the same page of where this conversation is headed. Tuesday, in our high school, there was a false alarm of a level 3 lockdown in our high school. Nothing was, it was just a miscommunication. It went off right at dismissal, and it was a lockdown that occurred. However, the next day, there was a level 2 lockdown that occurred because of gunshots that were about 2 blocks, is that fair, Chief, away from the school. That occurred away from Lorain High. We went into a level 2 lockdown. Again, that was around dismissal of the school day. On Thursday, for those that were around, there was a Snapchat post, which I'll speak a little bit more about, that went viral around, there was some other violence that was coming up, and therefore causing some concern. And then on Friday, there was a team of individuals that met to talk more deeply around what do we do in response to what we're seeing in schools and in the community. So it really forced us to have this conversation around the community and school connection, that this is the role of not only us as leaders within the school, but also us as leaders within the community to work together in a fashion that allows us to address the needs that we're seeing. This is not something that is solely the school. It's not something that's solely the community's responsibility. It is collectively our responsibility to come to solutions. So with that said, we realized in that conversation there are things that could be improved. We realized that there are young people, there are people within the community that are creating this feeling. And we realize those things are things we cannot ignore, but also realizing in this picture there's one bad apple, not 4. That there is a lot that is going on that's going well within the community, and a lot that's going on and that's going well within our schools. However, we get a lot of statements that begin like this. Did you hear? And when we get those statements like, did you hear, ... it's usually filled with something that someone heard second or third or fourth hand. And by the time it gets to you, we all know how the game of telephone is played. You pass that message down a few times, it's a completely different message than actually what happened in the situation. Case in point, when we think about all the wonderful things that happen into our community, those did you hears often trump the reality that's happening in school every single day, and we don't get to realize this beautiful orchard of wonderful apples. There's a lot of good things that happen in our school. There's a lot of good things that our kids do every single day that need to be celebrated and need to be the headlines on TV and the headlines in our papers. But the reality becomes this, because you start to reflect, so why is this all happening? We know in our schools we have to do a better job with handling some of the misbehaviors that we see. There is no denying that. I would not deny that, but it has become the narrative versus the situation we need to address. So as these situations come up and we see these misbehaviors that might be happening, we're seeing negativity spewed across newspapers. We see people jumping on television, in front of television stations and saying, here's the things that are terribly happening in our school, and people take that as the reality for all of our schools. And that narrative becomes pervasive. And it becomes very hard to deny when you start to see posts like this on Facebook over the weekend, which these things are false. They're not complete information, and therefore it becomes inaccurate and becomes very difficult for us to navigate. Like the Snapchat post. The Snapchat post was something that wasn't only just seen here, it was seen in other districts and other areas. That Snapchat post was actually almost a year old, on top of the fact that it was affecting our area. So we have to be careful with our messaging, the information we receive, and how it's communicated out. The truth, though, within the high school, there have been questions of like, so the high school, it just must be out of control. There's all these things going on, and the reality that is the truth. Within the high school building this year, we've had 17 incidents of fighting. 17. I'm not minimizing, I want to be clear, I'm not minimizing fighting by any stretch of imagination. There's no way that I write home to mom and say we had 17 fights. That's not a good thing. However, I think the narrative has become that we've had 137 fights, or that there's fights every single day, every single period, all the time, like kids aren't going to class, and that is absolutely not true. In comparison to last year, you can see where the numbers are. We're actually lower than where we were last year, but the narrative is something very, very different. The other question that has come up, does the district have a code of conduct? What is in that code of conduct? And the answer is yes. The code of conduct, and if we were able to click on it, I don't know if we'll be able to click on it in real time, but it would take you to the space on the website so you can see the actual code of conduct from 2018. And the only things we've really changed in that code of conduct are the dates and some pictures, and refreshed a few things, because we realize the deep work in revamping our code of conduct will take some time to really engage the community, engage families, and make the adjustments that are necessary, and that's going to take time. So with that said, that code of conduct is really just a way for you to see, we have rules, we have regulations, we follow them. Pages 10 through 17 outline those pieces. You'll see a level 1, level 2, level 3 offenses, and you'll see those consequences that align to those offenses within the code of conduct. If you can't pull it up, that's okay. I can go to the next slide. There's magic happening back there, I think. It's okay, I can go on. So, with that said, the other piece that kind of keeps me up at night, I know keeps our team up at night as we think about this, we have to do something about creating the right narrative for what we're trying to do and move in the direction that we want to see. And that starts with the way that we frame things, the way that we communicate things, the way that we instill the positivity and all the good things that are happening within our community and within our school. So there are a few things that we want to see, and these aren't things that are brand new. This is not rocket science. I'm not bringing you the latest and greatest, information around what we're trying to do or what we're trying to create. But there are 3 basic tenets of what we're trying to do to ensure our kids are safe and that are learning and that are cared for. And the top line starts with our ability to empathize but not sympathize. And what I mean by that is the idea that we as adults, and that's everyone that has an interaction with our young people, find a way to understand where they're coming from so that we can address their needs, but not sympathizing and lowering expectations. I think as soon as we lower expectations, that's when things become out of control. That's when things become very hard to manage. So finding that balance between empathy and sympathy is very important. More importantly, doing the right thing by our kids by empathizing with what is necessary. The second piece here is the expectations we set. I think these expectations have been called into question multiple times in multiple ways, but the idea that we do not discipline our kids if they make a mistake is false. The idea that we don't provide the structure that's necessary is also false. I do think there's improvement there that is needed. Structure has to be better, our love has to be stronger, and we want to make sure that our kids are happy and curious. The thing that may bother me the most, and I was hoping by setting this meeting at 5 o'clock and not a little bit later, we would get a few more of our scholars in here, but I know there's a volleyball game going on, so there's probably some kids there. But the piece that bothered me the most over the past 2 weeks has been the reality of a few of our scholars who I see in the hallways at the high school have come up to me and said, you know, Mr. Hardy, what I just saw on channel, whatever that channel was, is just not true. I don't see that. That's not my experience. And the next scholar said, you know what, Mr. Hardy, that actually makes me feel bad because that's not my life. I come to school every single day and I have fun. I was like, I understand. And then the last one was I actually had an opportunity to have lunch with a young man, and I just asked him, I said, we were eating, and I said, how many fights have you seen this year? And if I could try to capture his face and his just astonishment, like, why are you even asking me that question? Because he's never seen one in 2 years. I wish I could, because his face was confused. Because he doesn't see these same things. So that's what really hurts the most, is that the narrative that's created really hurts our kids. And we have to do better by them. And so that we have more pictures like this. So this is really what we're trying to accomplish. This is really what we're pushing for, where there's care and love between an adult and a young person, and that young person I know came to school the next day because of the hug she left with, the care that she left with. So that's where we want to get. So what are we doing to get there? So again, I referenced a meeting, and there's a bunch of individuals that were at this meeting, from the mayor, police chief, the police chief's team, representative from the county prosecutor, myself, Mr. Hawks, and I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anyone, but it was a full room of individuals who were really trying to brainstorm how we can collaborate. And so here are a list of things that we came up with and captured. Some of these things we just knew on our side, on our part of the partnership, we had to emphasize and double down on. So you'll see the list is a little bit longer because of that, because we knew we had to do more. We realized that the first thing we need to do is make sure that we talk to our kids about their safety, about their well-being. Scheduling permitted that we'll have those conversations starting on Monday. I know Mr. Garvey just came in, and we're going to make sure that happens with kids starting Monday, so that all kids can have this opportunity to talk about expectations around behavior, and just make sure we understand the ramifications of what's going around our community and within our school. We also met with school leadership team, the school leadership team Monday morning, 6:45 meeting, to talk about how we're enforcing our district's policy, our behavior policies. There's continued meetings. We've had a district safety task force for some time. We started one last year in light of the Parkland, Florida shootings last year. It was a point of conversation, and there's been ongoing conversation and meetings surrounding that since then. But we're going to kick it up a notch to make sure that we continue to have these conversations with community members, parents, teachers, to ensure that our schools are safe. We also, last week, for those that were in the district, I think there was a few folks that had meetings with me that day. We reviewed and tested all of our lockdown procedures. We realized during one lockdown the volume was a little low, so we wanted to test that. We also just made sure that people understood the expectations during lockdowns. So that is taking place. We also are retooling our safety and security team. Mr. Montague, who for a good time was the coordinator of safety and security, we had moved him to a very specific role to support some of our most challenging young people, but we're also hiring for a head of our security unit, so we're adding to that security team. We also recently received grant funds from the AG's office to tackle safety and security that we just got notification of today. So that's actually perfect timing, and that feels really good to have those funds. And then something that I want to thank our our marketing and communications team on, spent a lot of time thinking about how do we get the message out, and they do a tremendous job of working together to figure out when things happen, how do we get as much of the truth out to our families as fast as we can. So you might see a text, you might see multiple emails, you might see multiple updates, because we want to make sure that families and the community know exactly what's happening and when it's happening. For example, with the Snapchat situation last Thursday, there was an email that went out. There was an email that went out Monday once we concluded the investigation and found how long ago it was posted and all those type of things. So we're always going to try to keep the team and our community updated on what is going on. The beautiful part of it, that's just our side. What I love and appreciate because of Chief Rivera's leadership and the partnership with the city is thinking about how can we be in constant communication. To go back to that initial diagram. So every Friday at 9 a.m. we have meetings. We have meetings around what is going on, having conversations around how we can improve our partnership, but more importantly, how can we make sure that we're ensuring safety amongst those that are in our school buildings and those that are in the community. We're excited to continue those conversations this Friday. I think we got off to a great start this past Friday. We have also had conversations about revisiting our safety plans. So I know Mr. Hawks, who's around here somewhere, has been working with and talking to individuals to ensure that our safety plans are stronger. And we're going to submit those to Chief Rivera so that we can get additional feedback on those safety plans to make sure they're not only aligned, but are keeping our schools safe. Working with the city, police department, and community leaders on ensuring the safety over time. And again, this is something that we're both very committed to and will work hard to make happen. And in addition, and I put this last because I think it's the most important, Chief Rivera in our meeting last Friday said, you know, obviously his team is thin, but he sees this as a very important part of our ability to keep and maintain a safe Lorain. And he's committing to supporting that effort more deeply. And Chief, I don't know if you wanted to say a few words about that. If not, I'll continue. Okay, but more importantly, I think it's important to know that having him here and being the representation to our city is so important for us to creating that task force that's necessary for us to move forward. So these are, in a mouthful, there's a lot that we need to address that we're doing to make sure safety is our priority. The one piece that I made and put on a separate slide, which I think is, if not the most important, extremely important, is this. We need to spend more time understanding our kids. There is no denying that the conversations that we have with adults are important. There's no denying that understanding the relationships that, that adults need to have to create with kids and learning how to do that is important. But our kids have so many answers to so many of our problems. And I think for a long time, we have not included their voice in the process. We have not asked them to speak up. We have not asked them to tell us what they need. And I think it's time that we listen to them. And this is a conversation that I had with a council member about creating forums for kids just to share their concerns. Just have a space to express what's going on and understand what they need and come up with solutions that they also see in a real way. Not just to placate them. Not just to say, okay, you had your 5 minutes, but actually to take them very seriously. So I know there's a group of young people who I actually think are on the volleyball team. There's a few of them at least who want to start just a community of young people who want to voice the change that's necessary. So I highlight this as an important part of our solution as a community to ensure that our young people are taken care of, and that starts with listening to them. So what do we need from the community? So one of the things that jump out, and I think has been a conversation before, is one way of changing a community is really investing in it and spending time and understanding what makes it go and understanding that it's a community conversation. And there's 5 things that I've outlined that I think are going to be important. After those 5 things, I want to hear from you other solutions that we should be pushing on. One of which is, if you see something, say something. I know in New York City, this is kind of their tagline, this is their saying, this is their slogan. But in this situation, I think a lot of times we know little things are happening, but we don't share them. We don't bring them forward. We allow them to fester. We think someone else will take care of them. And as a result, it becomes a bigger problem. So I ask us as a community, if we see something, we share it. If you see a problem, bring a solution. What do I mean by that? A lot of times we say, oh, this isn't working in the schools. This is a challenge that the schools need to fix. But we never actually say, how do you think we can fix it? What are the ways that we can make this better? So I ask that as you bring a problem, bring a solution. Check the truth. Check for the truth with the source. Going back to our did you hear slide, right? A lot of that has created the narrative that we see. And so instead, if you have a question, if you raise a question, please bring it to someone. If you don't get an answer from that person, make sure that you get it from the next person. And at the end of the day, you can always email me and ask me if I know the answer to this question. And I will find, if I can't find it in 5 minutes, I'll find it as fast as I can, because it's important that we speak from the truth and allow the truth to be the narrative that we want to see. This could be the most important piece. So if you would have done the math with the suspensions, and if you would have seen the number of kids there that are involved in the suspensions, I think it's 32 or 33 in the high school, and divide that by about 2,000 kids, it comes out to about 1.7%. 1.7%, but that has become 99% of our conversation versus the 99% of the kids that are doing great things every single day. This is interesting, and this is me being a little vulnerable and transparent with this group. This is something that I've seen more in my short 15, 16 months here than I've seen probably anywhere else. Those that have solutions, or those that know that there's a right answer, get quiet and avoid speaking up, because the fear of retaliation, the fear of unfortunate politics, the fear of somebody coming back at them for speaking up. And so I ask, plead, beg, I'll sing if you need me to. Maybe you don't want me to do that. But I ask that if there is something that you know is right, speak up for it. Speak up for it. Our kids deserve your ability to speak up for what is right. It may not be the popular choice. It may not feel right to speak up against someone that you're sitting next to. It may not feel right to go against the narrative of a group of people that you're a part of, but the truth is more important. It's more important than anything that is going to drive any other agenda than the well-being of our kids. So please, I ask for you to stand up and speak out. Those 5 things will help us with this next part of the conversation, because my only ask from this group now, and I think there's a microphone somewhere around there with Elena, to come around, and as we have this next part of the conversation, I ask that whatever you bring to the table, it starts with a solution. I think we have heard and will continue to hear, and emails will come out around the challenges that we see. I think we know our challenges. I think we have an understanding of what's getting in the way. We now need your help with solutions. We need your help with thinking through what we need to do better, collectively. And I think with Chief here, with myself here, with those that are here in our schools every single day, and those that support our community, and I forgot to mention Victor Leandri, who's here from El Centro as well. Thank you for coming, Victor. I think it's important that we hear your solutions or your ways to improve and create a safer Lorain and Lorain City schools. So with that said, I'll leave you with this question, and for those to bring solutions. I want to start. I'm just going to sit.
Good evening. One of my major concerns is just looking around today, that this room should be packed with parents who have children here in our school district. That is one of my major concerns. Number one, we have our little ones, our babies are coming to school on a daily basis. Many of them traumatized by whatever their environment may be today, yesterday, or the night before. We need to have one of the solutions that I feel, the resources within these schools, that when that child hits that door that morning and that teacher says good morning or the principal is there, that we can find out, because usually the little ones will tell you what's going on. So if we have a person, someone, mental health department or whoever, to be there as a specialist in our schools where we could put that safe haven there for our children. If we're going to be that village, then we are the elders who need to look out and to come up with things. One of the things, too, that I think of, particularly for our children and our young people, and I said this at council last night, is a curfew. That we need curfew. You see the kids out here 10, 11, 12 years old, 10, 11 o'clock at night, is not good. Where is their parents? Where is the parental accountability that we should mandate? We mandate laws for everything else. So let's mandate some accountability and responsibility from these parents, and to see what our babies are going through. We sit here and we look at their behaviors, but you don't know what that child has gone through or what it is going through on a daily basis. And this is what we need to get at the root of that cause and do, and to let those out here who are doing these things and shooting one, that we as a community will no longer condone this behavior in our community. And that we all as the city of Lorain should step up, come together, all aspects across the board in this city need to come together and sit down and come up with a plan as to what we're going to do, not just in our schools, in our streets, in our churches, everywhere. We need to teach these kids to care and to love, and they don't feel it, don't have it, because we have allowed them not, or made their parents or whoever is responsible for them not to provide for it. And that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. And there was one hand here, and then Ms. Carter, and then I'll come right over there. One other, to your point around getting parents here, I know Mr. Garvey and I had a conversation Monday around also having a separate session for our Spanish-speaking families, because we realized that this is very English heavy, and it ignores a large part of our families, and we don't want to. We love our families. We want to make sure that we support them. So please know that is coming up too for a conversation for our Spanish-speaking families as well.
Thank you. So I am Pam Carter. I am the Third Ward Councilwoman. I am also a parent here. My son attends Lorain High School. My children have went through Lorain City Schools, and I am very proud to be here, and I am very proud of my school. And I did speak to Ms. Lee. I spoke to Ms. Lee about some things that a council person, me, could do in my ward. And I also spoke to the chief, and I'm willing to bring some solutions. One of the solutions is possibly meeting at some homes in the Third Ward to sit down and just have some gentle conversations just about what is going on in our area. As far as the curfew, yes, she came and she spoke about the curfew. When I was a young person, my parents created their own curfew. We had to be on the porch before that street light came on. So we heard the humming and we went to running. So, and then, you know, when we were at home, as long as our parents knew we were there, we could go outside and we can be on our front porch, but we were not allowed to run around the neighborhood. And if you got caught running around the neighborhood, someone down in the neighborhood was gonna call and tell on you if they didn't get you whooped first and whoop your butt back down the street. So I thank the elders for how they raised us. There was nothing wrong with sparing the rod. I know we don't do that anymore, but sometimes you have to find a good resource to discipline. And what's happening today is there is no parent discipline going on. And so now it becomes our problem or our issue to help fix it. So I'm standing before you as your Third Ward Councilwoman and as a parent in this city, willing to help. I've already spoken to some of the administrators and talked about even going to take walks to some of the houses. Give me a list of some of those students. Now, I can't walk by myself. I would like someone to walk with me, but I think if they see us come to their homes, these parents will, I can't see them refusing us, because I think a lot of them don't understand what's happening in the school system and what direction we're going. You talk about the new grading system. They don't understand that. They're used to the A, B, C, D, and F. Numbers they don't understand, but that's where they're going. It's new rubrics. And so those are conversations that need to be discussed in our system. Teaching the parents, sending them a letter, go to their houses. Some of this stuff is gonna have to come back, making parent visits. So again, I'm willing to help. Let me know when we can meet.
I'm glad I didn't grow up in your neighborhood though, because I would have been in trouble all the time. But no, I think you're right. I absolutely agree with the importance of how do we get to our families, right? I think a lot we ask for families to come to us, and we have to find a way to go to them. Amen. I agree. Councilwoman Springowski.
My name is Mary Springowski. I'm your Lorain City Council at large. I said this last night at council, and we talk about mentoring the children. What we are failing to recognize that in many cases this is generational, and we need to create mentoring groups for the parents. All right, a lot of these parents, they are modeling behaviors that they saw generationally before them. So we have to break that cycle, and we have to work with these parents and help them develop the tools that they need in order to help their children. Because right now they don't have it. And a lot of them, if you're looking at them, given the economic conditions that they've just come through and how many of them are living, they are overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. And it's very easy. We have a curfew in place. It's just parents aren't always enforcing it. And it is so easy for us to turn around and point the finger and say, that's the problem. Well, the problem is all of us. All right, we all need to work together to support one another in this. We need to have a blame-free environment in this, because we've got to start from scratch and we've got to recreate our community. And that is what these kids are. These children that we're dealing with, these children are the future of our community. We have to start young. We have to, all of us, get back into the schools and volunteering. We've got to encourage the parents that are overwhelmed. We know what when the kids are out there running in the streets, and that we need to find out who does that child belong to. And then if that parent needs help, we've got the, you know, I'll tell you what. You know the boy that brought the gun to school that was just sentenced and spent some time in jail?
From last year?
Last year.
Okay.
All right, he showed up in court without a parent. All right, the kid's still in school, is supposed to still be in school, but he showed up without a parent. He had no support system. You and I have had this conversation before. We could have 100% of our children graduating and 100% of them having a free ride to college. And they're not going to graduate from college because they don't have the support system that they need in order to succeed. We have to help them create that support system. So I don't know if anybody else did, but I reached out to that kid. Has anybody bothered to ask him how he's doing and why he did what he did? He's petrified. He's in jail right now, all right? But when he gets out of jail, he and I are going to have a sit down, and we're going to try to figure out how to get him back on the path so that he's got a future. So I'm going to challenge everybody who's here to do the same and reach out to a kid that we know is in trouble. Your kids that are that are suspended currently, you get them into a room, you got us an in-school suspension, I'll sit down and talk to those kids anytime. And try to root cause, where is this coming from? To empathize, but not sympathize. Because my background was, my parents are immigrants. So when, God, my growing up was like a boot camp. You know, I don't know about you guys. Pam, you had it easy compared to my dad. I was always threatened with a foreign convent school. But I'm not kidding. It was very, very strict. Children want structure. They want parameters. But by the same token, they're going to push those parameters. We've got to push back, like you said, with love and understanding, but also with firmness. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I think I also want to highlight, I know our communications team is taking notes on what is going on. So I heard mentoring, I heard support to our young people that we know are challenging. Mm-hmm. 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 What is the underlying problem? I agree. I agree. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Michaela Jones, and I'm going to speak from a student's perspective. And I think our root problem is our adults don't care anymore. And I think what sustained me through school was my principal, Mr. Hilko. I had a support system. When people at home didn't care for me, when I didn't have anybody showing up for conference, and every time I got suspended, I had him fighting for me. He disciplined me. I had ISA a lot of times. But he made sure that I was getting my work done. He sat down and asked me what was my problem. That's the problem. Y'all don't want to know what our problem is. And I think if our adults would show more empathy and not sympathy, we would get farther in life. If we had somebody to show us that they cared more than we did, we would care about ourselves. And as I was registering our youth today for voting, a lot of them told me that their voice didn't matter. A lot of them couldn't even imagine to say that they were going to be the change. So I'm speaking up for my generation, and I'm saying that I want to see a change. I want to see a change in the adults. I want to see a change in our teachers and our principals. I need you guys to care. And not because, you know, y'all just think we're running around just to do what we do, but because we don't have that at home. A lot of people are raising themselves. A lot of your students are raising themselves. And when we come to school, you're worried about their dress code. You're worried about why they're sleeping in class. But little do you know they gotta go to work just to get food, go to work and do what they gotta do to provide for themselves. They're in the streets because they're scared. The phrase stitches get stitches comes from fear. And at that point, fear conquers faith. We don't have faith in this generation. We need faith. And if you guys can show us that if we speak up, that there will be a change. Because if we speak up and nothing changed, then you'll silence us. The older generation will make us hide away because we feel like nobody's going to listen to us. So all I ask is that you guys care. Show that you care. Not fake it because it's your job, but actually do it because it's something that God placed you here to do. You're a teacher for a reason. Do your job. Love your student. Love what you do. Don't come to work and think that you have to be our babysitter. Actually love your job.
Hello, my name is Martha Pye, and I have been working in this school system for over 30 years. I started right here at Admiral King in 1970. So I'm back again. I just wanted to say, I have so much to say. When I read in the paper that our student stood up for their school and the rest of the students, saying, not degrading the school system, their name on television and in the newspaper, saying negative things about them, I was really hurt. Why? There's other schools have problems, but they have sense enough not to have to keep it under the rug. We've been knowing that. Put it under the rug. So to get it on television and in the newspaper, wait a minute, what is this? Oh, well, anyway, you know that I get upset when it's all about the children. To show them love and encourage them to do the right thing. And you have to do the right thing in front of them because they are looking at you and they know what you are doing. They know Mrs. Pye as Grandma. And I said they all of my children because I don't forgot their name. They knows me. So all of my children, and that's what it's all about. The children, but you know, like you said, the parents had children that they didn't have no, you know, where they was brought up or whatever. Well, we need to reach them. We need to reach them and sit down and talk to them and, you know, to give them some background what it should be. Now, don't tell me that, well, things have changed, you know, you in the older days and this type of thing. Your morals do not change. You got to have respect and be obedient, obey the law, your parents, the school, and all of this. Let's get involved in it. You know, when I retired, there were 6 retirees.
Grandma, we can't hear you. Can't hear you through the mic.
That we formed a mentoring program, a girls mentoring program. That was the first mentoring program in the school system. We went to Hawthorne, Garfield, Masson, not Longfellow, Irvin. Well, anyway, stop naming all of them. But anyway, the principal, the superintendent, he was excited. We had to write up our proposal and objectives, so we did that. And he was excited, and to know that we forming a mentoring program for girls. And this group, the teacher union, they wasn't so happy about that. We coming in, you know, when we took it to the principal, they approved it. They thought it was great. So we were happy about that, you know. So anyway, when the teacher saw that we meant business and what we was doing just to encourage and talk with the children about improving their, you know, the grades and the self-esteem and this type of thing, not no personal thing. Some of them wanted us to say, oh, Miss Pye, I don't like my mother boyfriend. No, we ain't going there. That's between you and mom, your parents. So we just talking about you. So, but anyway, I just applaud our students at Lorain High School and all the other schools when I see pictures of different school building, their activities, what the kids are doing, and that's what I want to read. I don't want to read nobody caught with drugs and was fighting and going to jail and all that type of thing. You know, we just get 5 pages of the journal. So, but anyway, well.
Talking about my husband now. Thank you.
You about to get in trouble with the wife.
Well, I have to tell the truth now. I'm not gonna lie.
Come on now, honey.
But anyway, I am just so happy to have this time to say that I love all the children and I want to encourage them and I just show some love and some smile and to touch them. That's what we gotta do.
Show them love. Show them love. That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy, for this opportunity.
No problem.
My name is Joann Eldridge Tucker, and I'm here as the retired library director of the Lorain Public Library System. I met last week with the librarian here, Kelvin Jackson, and he asked me to communicate to you all how important it is to have really good library services in Lorain City Schools. So I'm offering, as a retired librarian, and I have lots of connections out there, to help you improve your middle school libraries, whatever you need, just call me. I have resources available. And also, he would like to have a book club here at Lorain High. And I did speak with 3 of your high school students here, and they are also. So let's focus on the positive, and let's do what we can do to help.
Okay. Hi, my name is Johanna Harold, and I got 4 kids in Lorain City Schools. And a lot of people know me from working at McDonald's, and everything she said is true. I was there 16 years. Sometimes I was their mom, I was their friend, I was somebody they could talk to. I picked them up, I dropped them off, I took them to work, I gave them rides home from work. Sometimes all they need is somebody to talk to. Instead of coming to school, and like she said, the first thing they say is their clothing. I have a nephew who goes here. 4 years, he's still a freshman, 1 credit. This year he here, you only got him in for 1 class. Every day I get a phone call talking about he got to get off of school grounds. Why can't he have more than 1 class? The biggest thing I'm afraid of, in February he turned 18. I don't want him to quit school, but he's gonna quit. Why? He can't even come to school for a full schedule because they think he's a bad kid. He was never like that, but his home is horrible. I can say that. And me being his auntie, I don't have custody, but I'm always there. But sometimes we don't know what these kids are going through. And as soon as they come in, it's, oh, look what you got on. Go in there. It happened to my daughter, and she's in Young Scholars. Thank God Mr. Hilco fixed the problem, but she had on a Titan cheerleading uniform. And because they could see straight through her zipper and she didn't have on a polo, she had to go sit for a full period. Why? And she's not even a bad kid. She's 52 out of 488 kids. But at the end of the day, sometimes the school is their getaway. I know. I talk to them all the time. I still talk to kids. How many people in here know if your kid work at a fast food restaurant, they could get $8,000 a semester for college? Nobody. Half of them don't. We don't partner with McDonald's to get them jobs. We don't partner with Burger King to get them jobs. They just quit school, or they just go out, and after their first year of college, they quit because they don't got no help or no support. Sometimes these kids come in here is the only thing they got. So, like, I had Miss Jones, I had Miss Pye, Sylvia Duvall, Joann Duvall. If they could come back, I would love it because they didn't play. Not at all. AKA Miss J, she didn't play. That's why my brother ain't in prison till today, because of her, right over there. So sometimes it's more about just coming to school and just giving them a book and telling them, okay, you got 90 minutes for that test. Sometimes you gotta listen to them.
I just have to say, I agree 100% that it is the parents, but I think a lot is thrown on the teachers. And I feel that you need to give the teachers some more support also, because they're facing, when she says that she didn't have teachers that care, I think the teachers care tremendously. They are overwhelmed. They have kids in the class that are unruly, and they don't have the help with them. They need help. The teachers are great. My girls have had phenomenal teachers. Show them some support. So show them support, show them appreciation. Give them some help as to how they deal with the students in the class. That there's sometimes a mom in the morning. That child doesn't see a parent. A hug to that child in the morning is more important than making sure bell work gets done. And I agree that parents are number one, but the teachers have to have the help to do that. They have to have the help in the building, and maybe they need to have just the help how to deal with them, if that's what we're saying. But without the teachers getting support, the teachers are there for the kids 100%, but they just need the support to do that.
And I just want to make sure we capture and make sure I have that right, Ms. Nazario. What you mean by support, it's not only the appreciation or value, like we need to celebrate our teachers. We also need the professional development that they can to handle these misbehaviors. Okay. how to work with parents. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. So gotcha. Mm-hmm. Sure. Got it. Okay. Right. More of the celebratory piece of like, you're doing this really well. Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Julie Garcia. I am a community member, homeowner, taxpayer. You asked for solutions, and I know you have conversations with the students here at the high school on a regular basis. But one of the solutions I propose to you is that you include a larger variety of those scholars. You tend to speak to those scholars who are at the top, and you need to include the kids in the middle and the kids at the bottom. I worked at what we used to have Jumpstart, which was the New Beginnings Academy. Absolutely loved it. And those kids would come in. I think you met the young lady who was one of my former students who now works in your administration. Mm-hmm. Because we did support those kids. We did know that they were out all night long partying, and they came to school to eat, to socialize, and unfortunately, to make drug deals. But you have to include those kids and ask them what they need. On another note, I take issue with the people who are saying the teachers need to support those kids, because every morning I say good morning to my students. I give them a hug. I make sure they're eating, and I'm waking them up when they're falling asleep. We support our students. We pay for them to take ACT tests. We pay for them to go to volleyball camp and basketball camp. We give them rides home. We sit with them until their parents pick them up or don't pick them up. So please remember, we are there for your kids 1,000%. Those are our babies. We do for those kids probably more than we do for our own children. So continue to support us in what we do. And we need your support out in the community. We need your support in this district. And everybody has got to understand the elephant in the room is not that we're not doing a good job, not that our kids aren't doing a good job, because by God, they are. The elephant in the room is the legislation of House Bill 70, brought on by a Republican governor. Vote, ladies and gentlemen, and that's how it's going to change.
So I appreciate the solutions, especially around involving our young people. And I think what you captured around making sure that we have a diverse group of young people who are supporting that effort, I think is extremely important. So thank you, Ms. Garcia, for sharing that. I think it will only make us stronger if we hear more of our kids, regardless of where they are as far as achievement goes, and making sure their voices are heard. So thank you very much.
Doc. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go real quick. I'm Angel, and I'm just going to stay right there because I'm a citizen in the community, and we do need to vote, but we're talking about our children today, and that's most important. And one thing I appreciate what you said is getting those kids that are forgotten about. And one thing I appreciate about the slide that you put up there, throughout the school year, I've been coming to the school at least twice a week. I sit inside of classrooms. Today, I met with Mr. Hardy, and I gave him a sheet of paperwork, maybe about this thick, full of suggestions from students. And one of the suggestions from the students were from kids that might have a child, that might be on probation, that might be a gang member, that feel like they're not included and they want to be included. And that's something that Mr. Hardy truly accepted and took on. Another piece that we're forgetting about is our children, that 1% is titling our community that city that everybody thought we were, that we're truly not. And so another update I want to give you is I did speak with Edwin's. Edwin's is a 5-star restaurant in the east side of Cleveland that works with only felons. They take men and women that go to prison, they come out of prison, they have a rehab facility, they have housing, and they teach them how to become cooks, and anything else. And they're willing to entertain a conversation with Lorain City Schools to work not with the top percentage of the kids, but the kids from New Beginnings, the kids that society has thrown away. Our Success Academy. I'm sorry, Mr. Montague. See, Mr. Montague was one of those mentors that we had. I know what Kitty was talking about. My 4th year in high school, I only had 6 credits. And so they were looking to expel me from school. And so it took teachers and mentors like Mr. Montague. And she's Miss Ferguson now, but she's been my teacher since junior high. And so when I got in my car accident in my 5th year of high school, not because I was dumb, not because I came from a broken home, but I chose to follow the wrong mentors, and I needed a tutor to make me graduate, it was Miss Soroka that came to visit me when I was in a back brace. And so I can tell the parents that are listening and the media that doesn't promote all the positive that's happening in our schools, that our school does have that. Our school has those students that have been told that they can't do it, that want to do it. I met a student that only comes to school for lunch. I met another student when I spoke to another classroom that asked me to talk to her friend's brother, the young man that had a gun. And so yes, he needs to get in trouble. Yes, he needs to face those consequences. But the bigger picture is, why do our children feel like they need a gun? Yes, I represent the South Lorain, the 6th ward, where people say it's violent and it's worse. And what do? You take on them challenges, not by just legislation, but you take it to them. I had no problem going to the kids in my ward. I got in their face. I put them in a headlock. And then now I mentor them and I work with them. The chief can tell you that youth or violence in South Lorain is gone down. It's because it's people that care, not just because it's me, but it's people that care in our community that are here, that are unsung heroes, like Mr. Montague, like Miss Ferguson, like this teacher here, and the teachers that invite people to come in and work with them children. And so that's what we need. We need more teachers that don't get the spotlight to be spotlighted. We need those students that don't get the spotlight to be spotlighted. So every time our media says that we have nothing but hell raisers in our community, we can show you the scholar that might. We're forgetting about our basketball player that went to Youngstown, that chose to go to Youngstown, but had opportunity to go to Harvard, to go to Yale. Why is that not being promoted? That's what our community has. And so I call out to everybody here, not as a councilman, but a representative, a person that lives in South Lorain on 30th and Pearl that has no shame to say, I love my community, I stand outside, let's walk these streets. And if you're willing to walk the streets and walk with these kids, have no problem going to these kids when they're on the street, not in school, because school reality is their haven. Because they know in school, if something happens, that it's going to be broken up real quick. It's not really happening on 30th like that, as they say. We have our issues. Don't let me minimize it. But it's not happening like they promote it's happening. Why? Because these kids still have that fear that this young lady had. But we should still have the faith in our youth. So I call everybody out to keep doing that and keep suggesting young scholars to be part of your program. Thank you.
I'm not going to stand up because I don't like to do that. But my name is Monica Snipes. I have kids that came through the district. My suggestion is Lorain City Schools. You have a room full of people here who support you and stand behind you and the positive changes that you want to make for our children, our scholars. Also, you have a group of community partners who are out there to support you. You need to not take on so much to do yourself, and lean on your community partners. Refer them to those programs. Evaluate who your partners are, determine what you expect from those partners, and then refer those children who have issues to those partners and the parents too, who will support you. Stop taking on so much and get back to your job of educating our scholars.
My name is Barbie Washington. I'm not going to stand up either. I think that there are great things happening in our buildings, first and foremost. I have 2 graduates. They're awesome, and I have a sophomore that's doing well as well. I also think that we need to be honest, that we need to know of the great things that are happening, but we also need to know of the not so great, because that's how people can step up and step in and help. And I think it also stops that picture you shown where the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If the school comes out and says, yes, this happened, this is what happened, this is what it is, then we don't have to believe Johnny from the other side of town that doesn't even go to the school building. I think a solution is you do have parents that you already know of, and I'm sure there are more out there that are saying, I'm here, this is what I can do, or tell me what I can do. Use us. I haven't received a phone call in 2 years. Solution, I'm concerned about the curriculum. I know that you said that 17% of the curriculum that was currently being taught was geared towards standards. I would like to know what the solution would be. You can get back with me on that. But I would like to know if that's being addressed as well. I know we're talking a lot about safety and narratives and all of that. That's really important for our kiddos as well. I think we do need to support our teachers. I think our teachers are great. Just tell us what we can do so we can get involved and help.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. I'm Sharon Sweet. I'm running for state senate in our District 13, but I'm here today because I've been attending a lot of the distress meetings as well as the Board of Education meetings, and I see solutions up here, and I love the idea that we're going to give the children a voice. But one of the things that concerns me still is the fact it's great we have law enforcement, we have top-down leadership, and we're going to bring the kids into the fold, but I think we need to have our educators sitting here with the group. We need a collective group, and everybody who has a piece in this puzzle needs to be at the table if we're going to have lasting and effective solutions. So that's my suggestion.
Hi, my name is Alexis Hayden. I teach and I coach in this district. I've been here for 22 years, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening and to what the point that was just made. Teachers want to be heard, and to bring a solution to the table, to that point, teachers need to stop being blamed for everything. And I see teachers in this room, and I know you all agree with me. We're not the reason things are happening. We're all sitting here and we have heard parents need to be involved. That is absolutely true. I have had conversations with upper elementary students just as recently in my classroom today. We were talking about technology and a lesson that we were doing in language arts. What's a negative effect of technology? I had a boy who never wants to discuss anything. He said, I can tell you a problem. My mom's always on her phone playing in it. She never picks up her head. My mom doesn't spend time with me. That's what a fifth grader said to me. Flip side, I have high schoolers who say to me, my mom's never home. I don't have food in my house. Okay, same thing we're all saying. But teachers, we are not the problem. We need to be supported. We are very overwhelmed. We need the support from the community instead of being beaten down in the papers. We need that support. So from the people who are in this room, we ask you to support us. We ask you to stand next to us, with us, and beside us instead of behind us, talking bad about us. Support us, come into our classrooms, give us what we need. Back in the fall, when we first started back at the beginning of the summer, I was in Target buying notebooks for my class. Somebody said to me, I didn't know the person, they said to me, what are you doing? I was on the floor counting out notebooks. 5 different colors, set of 30 of each. Man came up to me, he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm buying notebooks for my students. He said, why? I said, I need to set up my students for success. He said, where do you teach? I said, I teach in Lorain. He said, what school? I told him what school. He said, that's where my kid would have gone. I said, where does your child go? He sends them to a private school. He said, do all your teachers do that? I said, yeah, we do that because we want them to be successful. People don't know that about us. They assume the worst about us. We want our kids to be successful, but we need people to know that. There are teachers who work more hours than people realize. And that's what we need everybody in this community to understand. Thank you.
So, Miss Hayden, I just want to make sure I capture the solution you provided. And I heard support, but could you specify support that you need?
Bring us to the table to talk with the community. If we're going to just have, you know, council people come in, bring us too. We offer solutions. We welcome people talking and saying how they can help us as well. So bring us all to the table.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to go here and then Victor. Okay.
Jerry Donovan, and I live in Lorain. I want to start out by giving you a bit of bad news. There's no more magic dust. All right? The only solution that yous have got right now is that man standing over there. And they shortchanged him. They didn't give him his cape and the big thing with the S on it. All right? So the only other solution is hard work. There was a book once written, it was called It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. And I've heard us talk about the students, I've heard us talk about the parents, I've heard us talk about the civic leaders. We also got to talk about business. I'm a former chairman out at the Avon Lake Ford plant. When I took it over, we had the worst absenteeism in the Ford system and the worst quality. When we left, it was #1 in both the units. It wasn't done by sprinkling magic dust, it was done with hard work. There's a lot of things that you can, too many things that you just can do, all right? It's recognizing that you can do it. I agree with Miss Lee over there when she said, look around this hall and see how many people are here and realize how many chairs there are here. And every one of these should be full. There's a tremendous amount of apathy, indifference, or whatever you want to call it. So the only solution that you're going to get to these problems is everybody, and I mean inclusive, not exclusive, just this group or this group, everybody pulling in the oars at the same time. The children are your future. People have got to realize that. These children are your future. You're wanting them to support you when you're old and gray like myself. You need to be supporting them now when they're learning. So it's not enough for you yourself to come in. Most of you have a house on either side of you. Talk to your neighbors. Encourage your neighbors. It was said that we have got to set up something to teach the parents. One of the first things to teach the parents is to talk to other parents and decide what you have to do. Now, we talk about everybody pulling on the oars at the same time, and I got to register a complaint here, but it's not with nobody in here. It's with the fact that I heard them mention House Bill 70 there. I don't know if it's good and I don't know if it's bad, but I know what it's about. It's because we failed in the past. We were failures, all right? And I pick up the newspaper nearly every day, and I see nothing but sniping getting taken at this man and at other people. And that's got to stop. We elected other people into a position, and unfortunately, things that happened in the past are with them or without them that brought about where we are at now. It is what it is. Now get behind it and let's make it successful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victor Leandri from El Centro. First, I'm going to do a comment, and then I'm going to give you a few recommendations here. But I agree with, there was a comment before that last week I read the newspaper after newspaper after newspaper, and in 2 weeks, we told our kids they were the dumbest kids because the score records from the state were all F. A few days later, we were talking how balanced they were in Ohio. Then we went and talked how 25% of them were not going to graduate. This is in 2 weeks. And now the closing of the school for, I mean, it got to the point that I walked out. I remember walking to El Centro one morning and telling my staff, like, I don't know how to take it. I really don't know. And you know, I'm the biggest, one of the biggest supporters for the school, for everybody. here in the school, for the administration, for the principal, for the teacher, but I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. And that's me. Imagine those kids that message is getting to them, that they're the dumbest, the violence, how are they taking it, how they're coping with it. And we want them to change when we are just telling them exactly how we feel about it, how everybody is doubting on them. Like, one of my recommendations is that you sit, and I have the biggest respect for the Morning and the Chronicle because they've been amazing to our Central. One of my recommendations is that you and Celestino put a plan and sit with them and really put a campaign to highlight everything that you showed earlier here. Because I bet you tomorrow when I pick up the phone, the newspaper, is not going to be that. It's going to be all the complaints that we're saying here, again, to throw my negativity in top of it. So I recommend that the school put a real good campaign, strategic, and that we go to the newspaper and ask them as partners that I know they are. Let's pull this campaign together. Let's build the morale and the spirit of the schools, including the administration, the principals, and the students. That's the first recommendation. The second one, you know where I'm going with this. I also value all the teachers, all the principals, and I think they're great. They are. Listen, I'm the best mental health counselor in Ohio, bilingual, period. But if you put me to work in Ashland, in the Amish community, I will not know what to do. So I always, for 4 years, I've been offering, and you guys doesn't take it, and I don't understand when I hear you early saying, give recommendation, we're saying, after 4 years offering, how much more I have to say it. We have amazing principals, amazing teachers. Most of them are coming from other districts. From district that doesn't look like ours. And I don't care how much they know about education, they need to understand our community. And it is not about them. It is not that they're not doing it. It's just that they don't understand our kids. They don't understand the Latino community. They don't understand the African American community. They don't understand the level of poverty in this community. They don't understand the lack of transportation. They don't understand it. So if we don't help them understand that, just to understand our kids and our families and to engage the families, how are they going to do it? How are we going to expect them to do it? And it bothered me that for 4 years I've been offering. And it doesn't have to be me. Let's stop bringing somebody from California to tell us what is cultural diversity means. What is how to work with the Latino community or the African American community when you have the talent here and we can tell you how to do it instead of hearing definition from a book like this is cultural diversity, this is what a Latino is. Let's help get them a real training about our community. And then, you know me, I have 20 other recommendations. I'm going to stop there because if not, I'm going to keep going with recommendation. But listen, the training cultural diversity, I would recommend that every new hire, whether it is a janitor, whether it is a custodian, whether it is a work in the school, need to understand our communities. They're coming from another community. And I really recommend that we do a campaign to really highlight Lorain City School because it's amazing. I have my daughter in this school. I chose to bring her to this district, and I'm amazed about the education, the activities, and the schoolings. I'm amazed. But it bothered me, this whole news and reputation and everything else. So anyway, that's me.
Victor, thank you. Thank you. And I think there's two things that I just want to make sure that we... Okay.
I have a group of parents in my agency, 24 parents, Latino, wanting to know how to get engaged with the schools, okay? You guys, and this is where I say also about history, and we need to be very strategic. In the Facebook announcing this, it said that it was going to be bilingual, that you were going to have the ability to do it. And this is where, when we don't understand our community and when we don't understand how to do events like this one, history creates behaviors. And if we're not strategic on that, parents are not going to get engaged. From the 24, I invited them, and most of them say, why am I going to go if I don't understand what they're going to say? I have 4 or 5 of them right here, and one is putting her hands up right now, that she's the one looking in the Facebook for me and saying, like, no, they're going to have interpretation. They don't understand what you're saying. They're here. And this is one of them giving me a note to me because I assured them that it was going to be bilingual because the Facebook said bilingual. Parents need to be more involved. Barrier language limits us to go to meetings. We need to translate letters and notes. This is just her in her ability to be able to communicate something in me in English. Like if we say we're going to do something bilingual, we have to do it bilingual, because how are we going to expect the parents, and 30% or 40% now of the schools is Latino, many of those parents doesn't talk English or have difficulty talking English. And this is the part that, this is the part that makes me mad. When I'm inviting parents and they come here and they don't understand and they go home, it is going to be more and more difficult for me to try to engage them back.
Victor, I appreciate all 3 points, and I want to capture a couple of those that I think are significant. One of which, and probably the last of which, I think about constantly, and we've had this dialogue before. How do we ensure that we provide the services to all of our families? And for that Facebook post to go out and not us, live up to that promise, that's on me. And I do apologize. But please know we will fix that. I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree that we need to do more for all of our families and make sure that we're reaching all of our families. So please know that is coming. The other 2 pieces that I think are that you mentioned, the narrative, that how we control the narrative or what we say to the papers. I fortunately, have the opportunity to speak to the papers every Thursday afternoon. And I have been more and more reluctant lately to speak to them. And if you've noticed, my comments in the paper have decreased, because a lot of the times the questions that are posed, I do not feel comfortable answering because I'm not sure how it's going to show up in print. And so I say that with all the possibility that the 2 papers that are here today will write exactly what I'm saying and just double down. But I want to make sure the community understands that it is never my intent, and of all things that I want to put in the paper is the wonderful things that our kids do every single day. However, when they take sound bites, they get to choose. They get to select the sound bite that they want and put as the headline. They get to take all the messages that are put out through the 20, 30 minutes that we speak every single day and put what they think is going to get people to click on their article to sell their paper. So that is the reality. The third piece, and I think Chief and I, obviously the partnership that we have created, I think will address that second piece, Victor, around us becoming together as a plan, so we can form that plan to ensure that we can sit down and we can talk to those papers to maybe address some of those issues. So thank you for your comments. I don't know where the mic is. I'll let it, all the way in the back? Okay.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Soledad Hernández. Yo pertenezco al grupo del Centro de Padres Comprometidos.
This is Soledad Hernandez, and she belongs to Victor Leandre's group at El Centro.
De hecho, yo fui una de las madres que solicitó que hubiera un traductor.
She was one of the parents who had requested that there be an interpreter.
Porque entiendo que como comunidad hispana somos muchos, pero lamentablemente yo volteo a mi alrededor y no veo a más padres como yo.
She says as a Hispanic community, she realizes that they are many, but at these types of events, there are very few. In this case, she's the only person from the class who's in attendance.
Pero el día de la junta, de la reunión que tuvimos de padres comprometidos, sabemos que no asistimos, lamentablemente no asistimos a las reuniones porque no entendemos lo que sucede.
But we realized when we had the committed parents meeting last Monday that the reason that many of the Latino parents don't attend is because they don't understand what's being said at the meetings.
Yo sé que esa no es una razón el por qué como hispanos no asistimos a las reuniones, pero sí me agradaría que alguien estuviera traduciendo para que nosotros nos comprometiéramos más y estar más presentes.
She understands that this isn't an entirely good reason not to attend the meetings, but she knows that if it were in both languages, more parents would attend and would be more involved in the process.
Al igual, yo también agradezco a los maestros. Yo entiendo que como papás nos debemos de comprometer más y no decir, es que usted como maestro debe de hacer las cosas. No, como padres también tenemos que comprometernos y decir, está bien. Como yo con mis hijos, yo siempre a sus maestros les he dicho que somos un equipo, maestros, mi hijo y yo. Entonces pues también como si se encuentran aquí papás, también me gustaría que se comprometan como papás para que así ayudan a los maestros también.
She's also grateful for the teachers and always tells her children that it's a collaborative effort. It's her child, her as the parent, and then the teacher in the classroom, and we need to all be working together. And she encourages other parents who are here in this space to make that same commitment, to have that expectation of their children at home, and to work collaboratively with the school.
Alana, can we make sure we get that parent has had their hand up for some time?
Hi, my name is Abby Romero. I'm a proud product of Lorain. I went to school here, been born and raised here. My parents have also. So we're hearing a lot of what we need the parents to do, what we need the teachers to do. First off, I want to say I'm not drinking out of the Kool-Aid from the new administrator. I'm sorry, I don't know you personally. I'm not drinking out of the Kool-Aid of the school board, because ultimately I'm a parent of 3 children in Lorain City Schools. So no one is going to be a better advocate than me. I'm the parent. And I just want to know how many parents are actually here. Can you just raise your hand? Okay. So my, I guess, challenge to all of the parents is, yes, we definitely need more parents to be here. Whether it's the time, whether it's the language barrier, whatever problems we can resolve to get more parents here, because ultimately we're the ones that are going to be responsible for our children. When they're, getting in trouble, the school's calling us. When they're not doing their work, the school's calling us. So ultimately, the parents, as a community, we are the ones that need to take the control and the power, I guess, of what decisions are going to happen in our schools and what we want to see happen. Because, for instance, just in my personal experience, I don't have misbehaved kids. I have 3 kids that do very well in school. I have an 8th grader, straight A student. She's the only football player in the middle school team. My second daughter, 6th grader, AB student. She does very well. My son is in 2nd grade. He's already been tested gifted in math and reading. And unfortunately, we don't have a gifted teacher for him. I've already brought it out to the attention. He needs to be challenged. He needs that. So I understand we have children that are not getting their needs met at home, are not getting their needs met socially, economically, all those things. But we do have children that are getting those things met. I'm a product that I'm breaking the mold for my children. My parents didn't graduate high school. I graduated high school. I'm currently working on a degree myself, and I work to provide for my children. So just know, you also have parents like that in the district that want to do well. My 8th grade daughter, she's already set to go to early college at the high school. I am fearful of the high school, of what she's going to be seeing when she does come here, because not just the media, I hear the students talk about it too, and so that does worry me. She just recently told me she wants to go to Harvard, and I thought, what? I don't even know how to respond to her, because I'm working on a degree at our Lorain Community College. That's a goal to me that was like superior. So when she tells me she wants to go to Harvard, I don't even know what steps to begin to take to prepare her to get to Harvard. But if that's where she wants to go, I'm going to make sure she has that chance and opportunity. So parents, we have to have the majority voice above this administration, above politics. I don't even care about politics. I don't care about anything else but my children and their future. And I'm sure the parents that are here feel the same way. Thank you.
My name is Amanda Albright. I have been born in Lorain. My great uncle was the superintendent back in 1970, Joe Colta. My mom, my grandfather, everybody has gone to school here. My son is now in school. I did not get the opportunity or whatever to go to Lorain schools. My grandparents had me at Keystone. But I am one of those parents who votes, who wants to be a part of this community, I make sure that my kid is doing his homework, I am that parent who will ground him if he doesn't do his homework, who is like, I advocate for that. I went to his zoo trip last year at the end of the school year. I was the only parent there to take care of 18 children. Me and that teacher. I think more parents need to be involved in that. I don't get the community-wide or the school things for any of the elementary schools. That's one of the issues that I think that needs to be taken care of, is the fact that we're always just talking about the high school. The high school this, the high school that, the high school this. But what about the children that are the future, and they're in elementary school, they're in your pre-K, they're in the middle school? That needs to be made more aware of too, because without that, I knew nothing about any of these communities, and I don't know anything about what's going on about these meetings after school or at 5 o'clock. And that's also another issue, is the fact that I don't get out until 5:30, and you guys are holding this at 5 o'clock. We should be making them later in the evening, so that way the parents that do work all day are able to make this. Because I was halfway through that, because I didn't even get to see the beginning of this, because we started at 5 o'clock. So that needs to be taken care of.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your comment. I mentioned earlier, and the hope was to find a happy medium as far as time goes. We were hoping to get a few more of our scholars to be here, and we know as we go later, so we'll have to find the right answer of time-wise, and maybe it's just 2 separate meetings so that we can have time with kids and with their parents. And I don't want to forget Mom in the back, because she's had her hand up a long, long time, and I want to make sure that I hear her solution.
My name is Tina, and I have 2 high schoolers in the system. I have a couple different things. One of them is, it has more to do with, I guess, this 5-step system you have about the dress code. It was brought to my attention that one of the students of one of my children was out of dress code one day, and the answer to the dress code was that she had to sit. And I know all students don't necessarily tell their parents that they were out of dress code, and I asked them why they were out of dress code, and they said basically they didn't want to wear dress code. And I said, well, you should have wore dress code. And like I said, my issue wasn't necessarily that, well, yeah, my issue was that she wasn't wearing dress code, but it was how it was dealt with, that she had to go sit instead of being notified that she was out of dress code, so that I can make sure that she was brought the proper dress code and then sent back to the class so she could be getting the education she is sent to school to get, instead of sitting in a room to be punished and not receive the education that she's being sent to school for. So she got a slip, was sent to not participate in class, and I never knew she was out of dress code. So this seems to be the way that it's supposed to be and what's happening, and and if she hadn't told me about it, I never would have known about it. So there's a 5-step program, or 5 steps that happen, and I don't like it. I think that I wouldn't have never known about it, and I won't know about it until she reaches step or level 5. She's not going to reach that, but the whole point is that this is happening to a lot of students, and if I know about it at step 1, it won't reach level 5, and that shouldn't happen.
I know you have 2 parts. If Mr. Garvey's right back there, because I think there's a couple pieces that might help with that understanding that may not be completely aligned with how that works. So Mr. Garvey, if I could just ask you kind of respond to that right now so we can nip that in the bud, because I think there's some things that might have been lost in translation. I know I was a kid growing up, and I was good at making sure my parents heard what happened, but there might have been some other pieces to it. So Mr. Garvey.
And we can always connect to talk specifically, but with the dress code enforcement here at the high school, the very first time that a student has a dress code violation, as long as it is not something absolutely outrageous, as open clothing or something along those lines, the student just receives a wristband that notifies other adults in the building that the student has been addressed for dress code, and they're entered into our system for having a dress code violation, and they're permitted to go on to class. They're not held in any space for the first through the 5th violation. Once they've had 5 dress code violations is when they do receive a Saturday school suspension as an alternative to having any other suspension, either during the day or out of school, because we do really want to keep our kids in their class and make sure that they're not missing class as a result of a dress code violation. But that would be after 5 times that they've been in that situation. So if you'd like to look at your daughter's specific case, I'd be happy to pull it up for you and let you know. But they shouldn't be on a first-time dress code violation sent out of class. That's not the policy.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey.
Well, she told me of only one time, and as far as I know, there's one time, and there should not be any. So it's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. So thanks for letting me know. My other issue is that, like I said, I have 2 kids, but I also have nieces and nephews in the system. In the school system. And it was brought to my attention by one of my siblings that she doesn't have Wi-Fi. And everything in Lorain City Schools is over the internet. There's the Facebook, there's all the kinds of communication over the internet. So she's not getting the information that is being needed, like picture days and these meetings and PTO meetings and all those different things. She doesn't know when they are. And yeah, I can tell her, but her work schedule is not, I don't know what her work schedule is. And so communication for parents, if we want them to come to these meetings and we want them to participate in meetings, we need to find some other alternative way as well for the students to let the parents know, or for the parents to get the information, because just relying solely on the web is not a good thing for the students or for the parents. It's not helpful because they don't know it. She doesn't necessarily get emails because she's not always on the internet. She works and she goes to school. So you have a parent who's working, going to school, and taking care of kids, going to daycare, and making sure homework is done. And by the time you feed them and get ready for the next day, it's time to go to bed. So it's not that they don't want to participate. It's not that she doesn't care about her kids. It's that she doesn't have the time, and then you want her to also pay for something she can't afford because she's just trying to meet the daily needs of her children on top of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I have another question before you go, because we're also thinking if there's a couple gentlemen up here who can help you with that situation for that individual, so we can get Wi-Fi, but more importantly, there are services around that we're pulling on. So if we know parents and families that need Wi-Fi, we can address that. But I do want to ask one other question. Say we take Wi-Fi off the table, are you suggesting like robocalls or mailings? Like, what would be the best way to get her information? Okay. Understood.
Oh, thanks. I contacted the school and asked the school when was picture day. And they said, it's going to be this day. And I said, okay, well, is there a paper that's going to be sent out? And they said it's going to be sent out sometime this week. So then I kept pestering my children. Okay, did you get your picture form? Did you get your picture form? Did you get your? So every day I'm asking the students. And one child brought it home, but the other child didn't. And I asked the child that didn't bring it home, well, they didn't pass it out in my class. So I filled out the form of one student, and then I looked at the form, and then I got an envelope, and I filled it out for the other students. So some kids get them, some kids don't get them. But if you don't have 2 kids, then you don't have that. Well, her son goes to the middle school. He's in 6th grade. She got no picture form at all. She didn't even know about pictures. So she has no picture for her son, and she was really upset, and she wanted to get pictures for him. She got pictures for her daughter, but her daughter goes to Clearview. So she's really angry, and she wants to pull her child out of Lorain City Schools. And because she's like, I don't get any information, I don't know anything, and I don't have any way of getting information because they want to do everything over the internet. And I don't have any way of getting any of the information. So she's really angry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying, because I realize internet can't be our only way. We have to find ways. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The last thing was the computers that were sent home. one of her friends had lost their child had their backpack stolen. And when she reported it to police, she reported it to the administration building. They told her that she had to pay for it. But when we read the information, it said that we had to let you guys know there's trackers in it and all that other stuff, and we would get help.
Mr. Hawks is there in the back, and you can just touch base with him and we can address that. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to make sure I get a couple other hands. No, you're fine. You're fine. I can come to you, I promise.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hardy, for listening to my community. I was born and raised here as well, product of Lorain City Schools. I have a 10th grader and I have a 3rd grader. My 3rd grader is really who I'm most worried about. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Yeah, from El Centro. What you said just like literally was like ding, ding, ding in my head when you said like, it is our job to redirect the narrative, and so that our kids start hearing, you know, they are really great and they are smart and these are the great things that are happening, because, and I think I've heard in other meetings talked about before, expectations, and if we set the expectations, it's very likely that a lot of students who are bottoming will rise. And it's, I guess, so it's unfortunate to me that, well, maybe I have a question. You said that in speaking with the papers, you've been more reluctant. And this is the second time that I've personally heard you kind of say something in that manner, that you were drawing back from our public because of the reputation you were creating and you weren't happy with it, which I can understand if it is something that's inaccurate. But if all you're providing is positive information, I'm not sure how that could be spun to make you look bad. And if that's just what you regurgitate every single time you talk to them, they might stop giving you the, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna back off the things that are triggers and all that, you know what I mean? So like, I think that's an amazing idea, something that the school can ask for volunteers to help create and push, and people who are strong on social media. I think she left, but you know, that can push that narrative. And I don't know what you're afraid of, like the paper saying about you, but and someone else made the point about legislation being so much more important than the end result of our kids succeeding. So maybe, you know, that should be the focus and not the political conflicts. And if that was kind of taken back, then they would have no choice but to focus on the things. So I don't know how, you said you want solutions. I don't know how to give you a solution to that other than to just like not, you know, you don't have to care so much about what Mr., you know, I'm just picking you because you're sitting there, Rivera says about you. You know what I mean? Like, if you know what you're doing is 100% for our kids and you're not hiding anything, then let them say what they're going to say, whether, you know what I mean? Like, but something specific I wanted to point a solution. I have a question and then a solution about the new grading system. I spoke today personally with my child's teacher. She took the time out of her day to call me after school to give me an update. I didn't ask for one. I was kind of waiting until conferences to address her about the interims and, you know, get more specifics because they are so vague. And she did take time out of her day to call me today, and she said that she was doing that because of that reason, because there wasn't a lot of room in the interpretation of the interims. I appreciate that, and we had an extensive conversation, and she told me that she's not had any training in the new grading system and that she received a packet, but at this point she's kind of winging it, and I'm lucky that she's a 30-year, you know, she has 30 years in teaching, and I feel confident that due to her experience, she's going to, you know, help our kids succeed, and she's gonna wing it, fake it till she makes, she's gonna, you know, do what she has to do until she knows what to do. So, but I have to know that, you have to know that there are some teachers who aren't as experienced as her, or maybe aren't as intuitive to know what to do until they're told what to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so why hasn't there been training? That seems just kind of outrageous to me. Sorry, thank you.
So a few things just to respond in, because I do want to close out and make sure that we come back to the safety question and make sure we get those solutions, but I do want to respond. There has been training around standards-based grading, and matter of fact, one of the trainers is sitting right behind you, who led the PD session in the summer. So there's one piece. I think the other piece, I'm not afraid of what other people are saying about me, because none of this is about me. Like, zero of this has to do with me. It's more for me to say I'm not going to respond to negativity. A response of negativity to negativity does not create positivity in my mind. So my response, my lack of response, is out of not adding more fuel to the fire. I just choose not to do that. The other challenge that is just real, right? I mean, the speed in which information can spread often is a lot faster than you getting out the right story. So for example, lockdown situation, I think TV cameras were there before I even knew they were outside and someone was standing in front of it. So I think the real challenge we have is the speed in which people are trying to get the attention and create a narrative for us to get ahead of it, right? And so it makes it really challenging to be able to, even if we wanted to share that positivity, the negativity sometimes gets out before the positivity. And then thirdly, well, yeah. Well, I'm definitely not saying forget it, but I think the perseverance is putting our head down and getting to work. I think our job is to really focus on what is important, and I think if we dwell on the things that people want to, detract us or attract us to, so we're not focused on the work, we never will get to our destiny. And so part of my MO is always just put your head down and continue plowing forward and make sure that we're doing right by our kids. But the other piece is real. The other piece is real. Right. There's a number of questions that align to that, a number of questions that ask me to say, what is your response to ... person? And I say no comment. Because I'm not going to go and try to go tit for tat with another individual. But I think the bigger message is, and I hear you, get the positivity out. You're saying get the positivity out. Yep. I hear you. Create positivity. I agree. I agree. I agree. It's true. He won't. He won't. Yeah, it's true. More training, absolutely. Agreed. I agree. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take one last comment. And again, about going back to solutions, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, I think my comment will kind of bring us home because, and I'll stand up, Frank Whitfield, president of the Urban League. And so one thing I'll say that's important that you all recognize is two things. One is don't believe the hype. For Victor, Victor's comment about in the past 3 weeks, the kids have heard they're the dumbest, the most violent, ignorant, and then even some of the most wisdom in the room still said we were failing. And the thing that I see that startles me the most is that we're starting to believe it. And we have to remember, this was someone from the outside who said we were failing. This was a set of rules that we never created that said we were failing. And I think we are missing, so I get a chance to go around the country, I get a chance to work around this county. This is a great turnout. I go to meetings where it's 5, 10 people in a room and they're happy 5, 10 people. So the fact that y'all like, man, we need more people, I'm like, don't y'all see how good y'all got it? Y'all got parents here, you got teachers here, you got the police here. This is great. And sometimes when you're so caught up inside of it, you don't see how good you got it. And I just would really want to just encourage you all. Because y'all, some of the challenges that y'all are facing, the work that y'all are doing, y'all working harder than 10 times the amount of work I see people out there in other places doing. And I don't think y'all give yourselves enough credit for that. And I see that we internalize that, and the system, I'll just call it the system that be, plays on that. And our first comments were blame the teacher, blame the parent, blame the teacher, blame the... Both of y'all are working like hell to survive and make it. Y'all are, like, this ain't easy. If we was in Avon, it'd be a whole different world we'd be living in. The economic situation, we have inherited a different deck of cards here. And we just gotta face the fact that it's different here. And we can't let the powers that be define us. We can't let them tell us we're failing and we start believing we're failing. Oh, we're violent, oh, we believe we're violent. No, we have to not only create a narrative to share it out, we have to believe it in this room. Our kids aren't bad. Our kids are brilliant. Our teachers work hard. Our community cares. That's what we have to believe, because that's the truth, not the little narrative. So that's all I got to say. Good job. Keep it going.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. Chief, you want to close this out?
Okay. I just want to share a couple of thoughts. Frank, thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking during. This is a great school system. We got great teachers. We have great kids. I've always known it, truthfully. You know, great kids. I mean, people have been very successful graduating from Lorain City schools. You know, we have a different circumstance here. A lot of people don't want to recognize that, but we have a different circumstance. So I agree totally. And as far as, you know, positive and getting the message out there, I got to tell you, I've never received so much information on my internet from the Titans. So, so somebody's working hard at getting that out. But I just want to, you know, I know a lot of people that aren't here. We're really concerned about the issue of safety, and that's why we're here. Okay, truthfully, I've attended a lot of these meetings. I've been here almost 48 years. I've heard a lot of the same thing. It's the parents, it's the social economic. We've had that problem for years and years. But at some point we just gotta, like a laser focus, just focus in on one issue. Today is safety. I've heard a lot. I'm out in the community a lot, and I have started to hear the same kind of conversations we had years ago about the schools are unsafe. You know, I'm pulling my kids out of the school system, you know. There's no reason to do that, but the perception is out there, and that perception can really control our narrative, you know. And so, you know, there's a lot of good news, you know. Even people who differ. This past Friday, Mr. Hardy, Jeff Hawks, members of the school board, members of the academic commission, members of the police, members of the county prosecutor's office, the mayor, the safety director, we all sat down in my conference room for 2 hours and had a really, really good conversation about this issue. The one thing that they agreed on was that you can have disagreements, but I think we could all sit down and agree on when we talk about the safety of our kids, you know, and that's happening, you know, and we've agreed to meet weekly. We've agreed to share information, because it's true that a lot of what happens in the community comes out and comes into the schools. It's also true that some of the things started in the schools come out to the community, and that's why it's going to take all of us, you know. And so, and the truth is, you know, I believe in the concept there's no such thing as a bad kid. I was raised in a Catholic orphanage. I heard that a lot, truthfully. But the problem is that there has to be, sometimes you have to have boundaries and you have to have parameters, and one of them has to deal with physical aggression. You can't allow it in the schools, and you can't allow it out in the community. So, and you have to understand, for one thing, you can never tell by and I'm not even knocking the media, you know, because really they report a lot what's given to them, you know. But crime, juvenile crime in our city for the last 10 years has gone steadily down, like 53% down. You know, so we're working out those figures, and at some point I'm sure that we'll agree that jointly we'll have another forum where we just discuss those kind of issues. But I have to be truthful with you. In the last year or two, we've seen the spike. And that spike, still lower than what it was, but it's a spike from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And we're starting to see the growth again of small gang problems. And they're being influenced by an older group that now are in their 20s, late teens, and early 20s. And you're starting to have some shooting incidents again. We had one today, you know. It had nothing to do with the schools. It was a few blocks away. Give you an idea how bad it can get. We didn't break up the party, but we walked through a party. They had rented one of our clubs. And after the officers walked through the parking lot. They found 5 loaded guns sitting on front seats. Okay? We broke up a party just a few months ago, or some time ago. 4 of the people in the party were carrying guns on them. They were all young men. So the issue is real, but I got to tell you, it's not, the sky isn't falling. This is manageable. As long as we all work together, this is manageable. And it doesn't really come into, the schools, you're talking about basically some fights, and a lot of them have to do with girl fights, to tell you the truth, you know? And so this is manageable. It's not something that we should panic about, you know, but I just want to tell you what we're going to do from our end, from the police department end, okay? We've been involved for the last couple of years trying to do community engagement, trying to build up that trust and a relationship with our community. We've worked hard at that. But we got limited resources. But we've decided this past week that what we're going to do is we're going to create a special unit. And we're going to pull people from some of those other duties. And we're going to concentrate on a few things. Very simple mission. And that's to address individuals, areas, and other factors that are bringing some of these fights and violence into our schools and into our community, and dealing with that violence. We're going to deal with it. But we're going to deal, but we're going to deal with it with the schools and with everybody else. And there's twofold objectives, or a twofold strategy that we're going to use. For young people that are under 18, we're going to try intervention. We're going to identify them. We're going to re-energize the interests of other partners, our courts, juvenile court. At one time, they used to have tons of programs for our kids and follow through. That doesn't exist today. We have to our nonprofits. We have to they've always helped us, and we're going to reach out to them again. Our churches can play a pivotal role. And the city, not only the police department, but the city has to play a major role. Because I got to tell you, we talk a lot about the kids being our future, but we don't support it with public policy or public funding. You know, when I came back from, I mentioned the orphanage, but when I came back, I'm telling you, every park was filled during the summertime with, I don't even remember, Class B, Class D, Class E, Class G leagues. I mean, there was kids in every park playing leagues that were sponsored by the city, and by, well, not by the city, but by, Lorain Youth Baseball and some other people. I played and I wasn't very good, so I played intramural basketball, but all our schools were open. We went to the east side and we went to different schools. And so there was a lot to do, and everybody has tried. Frank knows, we talk about Edwin's restaurant. The Urban League tried to have a restaurant here. They opened up a restaurant on the Broadway. In fact, Lorain City Schools had one before them called the Red Brick Inn. And that was financed a lot through the police department and through the prosecutor's office and some other good people. We used to have after-school programs that we helped fund. There was just a lot of things going on. That doesn't exist today. So the city needs to be on board, and they need to, and I hate to say it this way, but we have to talk. I'm having a meeting tomorrow morning with the mayor, so I'll get to him before you guys do. But we're talking about manpower. We're stressed to the limit. We are stressed to the limit, and in order to accomplish what I've been describing to you, I have to pull people from other critical units, which is going to put us, it's going to be a little difficult, and so so we're going to use two strategies. One is to intervene with young men who find it more attractive to hang around a group of other kids and get involved in certain things because they don't have any other safe places. Or they don't have safe spaces, and they don't have the people helping them. We got the Boys and Girls Club. We have El Centro. We have Harrison. We have the capacity here, and I would love if Mercy would build a recreation center in Lorain. We built one in Amherst. Everybody. We need something for these kids to do, and through those programs, I can tell you that makes a difference because that's where they meet the mentors. For me, it was Sacred Heart. I grew up around Sacred Heart in South Lorain. Everything we did revolved around Sacred Heart. You know, they had the CYO club, they had all these different clubs. We took hay rides, we had dances, everything we did. But I think half of those people got married, But, it just made a difference in people's lives because they had people, not all of us had homes. I lived in foster homes, but, we didn't all have parents. And a lot of these kids have issues at home. But if they can go to some place and feel safe and talk to somebody who cares about them, that'll make a difference. That's how we're going to deal with that group. The adults who are prolific and repeat offenders and who are kind of guiding these young kids, then we're going to deal with them different. We're going to deal with them strictly enforcement, even going with federal, if that's what we have to do. But that's what we're going to be doing, and we'll be working together with the schools, supporting the schools, and working with everybody, all these other agencies that we need to work with, and we ask for your help in doing that. And as far as teachers, I think teachers, I put them in the same category. I love my cops. I think they do a very difficult job at great risk to themselves, and I think teachers are in the same category.
So with that said, again, I thank you for the continued support, and I love the steps that we're going to take collectively, and I think the leadership that you have brought to this moment in our city and with our schools. So we appreciate your support. And one other thing is, speaking of support, there's an opportunity tonight that you can continue your support. There is a girls volleyball game going on right now in our gymnasium, and I think that's a great way to end our night and end our evening. If you can, spend 5 minutes, cheer our young ladies on, and support them, and because that's what it's really all about. So again, thank you, and have a great night.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.